Hi, this is Chris. I'm presenting you here with a short video on how to play Starship Tactical Combat Simulator via Vassal on a play-by-email basis. So, by this time you should have already downloaded your manuals for the game, which will look as follows. You'll have 4 booklets. The Book 0, which is Introduction to Starship Combat, Advanced Rules, Basic Starship Tactics, and Control Panels. For our very first matchup, we're only going to be using 2 of these, so Introduction to Starship Combat and Control Panels is what you're going to be interested in. So, to start out with, we're going to show you how to fill out your Master Control Panel. So, we have our Master Control Panel. It's on Book 4. You're interested in page 1 and 2. Forget all these other panels here. This game is part of a larger game called the Star Trek role-playing game, and which is kind of like Dungeons and Dragons, for instance, but we're only focusing on Starship Combat. So you can forget about all these other panels. All you need to worry about here, again, is Master Control Panel, page 1, Damage Control Display, page 2, and at the very end of the booklet are your damage charts and your other charts like firing and movement and so forth. That's what we're concerned about. So back to the Master Control Panel. If you note on page 5 of Book 0, the beginning scenario, it has all the data you need to fill this thing out. So vessel name, whatever, but bear in mind as we progress, there will be more ships on the board, and you want to name these things because, hey, at minimum, that keeps keeps things separate. You know which ship is what. Vessel class, in this case, you guys will be playing Constitution class heavy cruiser. I'm playing Klingon D10 heavy cruiser. Captain's name, race, whatever. You don't have to fill that out. Now, on to the engineering display and your energy. Everything in this game takes energy, and that's provided by your impulse and your warp engines. So you guys need to look at your Constitution class heavy cruiser. You will see that starting with your impulse engines, you need to enter in what the type is, and if you look at your data, you'll see that it's a type FID, and that it provides 4 points of energy. So what you'll do here is leave 1, 2, 3, and 4 blank, black out the rest of the track. That will show you then the available impulse energy points. You're going to do the same thing for each warp engine. So if you look at your warp engine type, you realize, hey, they're FWFs, and there's 2 of them. So you put FWF, FWF, each one of them gives you 20 points of energy, so you go over here, 20 points, black out the rest. Same thing down here, black out the rest. Then add all this energy up, enter it right here under turn number 1, total power units available. You'll see here that's already listed, 44. Now, in the beginning here, you'll see all these values called TAC. Forget about TAC. TAC is if you want to make this game even simpler, and for like super duper quick. And generally that, again, it's only used for the role-playing game where you just want to have a Starship Combat duel happen real quick, like a 3-minute segment like on the movies or TV shows. We're not doing that because our game is all about Starship Combat, so we want to spend some time doing it. So again, forget the TAC values. Now we move on to power to movement. This is the energy you're going to allocate towards making your ship move. And you'll see under warp engine type, you'll see that you have under engine and power data, there's a movement point ratio, 4 to 1. So you'll write here 4 to 1. What that means is for every 4 points of energy allocated, you can make 1 movement. And so you can allocate as much as you want, as little as you want. Just bear in mind, you have to balance out your movement, your shields, and your weapons. You can't power up everything all at once. You're going to have to make some choices. You're going to do a similar thing here for your shields. So go down to shields and damage data. You will see that you have a shield point ratio of 1 to 2. That means for every 1 point of power you apply to shields, that will generate 2 points of protection. Now you have 6 individual shields, and we'll be getting to that here in just a second. But just bear in mind that you're going to figure out how many total points of shield protection you want, and then later on, in just a moment, you're going to be shown how to distribute that power. So you need to figure out how much shield protection you want overall. And you'll notice here each shield has a maximum shield power. Like in this case, your shield, FSN shields, each provide a maximum of 16 points of protection. So you realize then that, hey, charging these shields up to full, all 6 of them, is going to take a god-awful amount of energy. Probably not going to be able to charge all of them. So you need to figure out how you want to distribute that. Then generally whatever's left will go to weapons. And of course, like I say, a major part of this game is determining the balance between movement, shields, and weapons. Next, once you've determined how much power is going to movement, you'll write down here how many movement points you got out of it. So for argument's sake here, I'm going to say we got 10 points of movement. And so we'd jot down 10. Forget warp speed. There are some role-playing game aspects up here that deal with warp speeds along with damage. We're not going to use them for this game. And it also plays into, there's also some stuff about getting stress damage. Like if you make a high-speed turn, you can get some damage to your superstructure. For this starting game, we're not going to deal with that stuff at all. So forget current warp speed. Now we get into the weapons display. This is fairly self-explanatory. You look at your Constitution class heavy cruiser under weapons and firing data. Like for the FH3 phaser for beam weapon type, you'll see you have 6 of them, and three banks of 2. So you have 2 that will fire forward and to the port side. You have 2 that fire straight forward, and you have 2 that fire forward and to the starboard side. So you'll write down each one individually, like a type FH3, and then you'll circle your firing arcs that they can do. So like you have 2 of them here that do forward and port, so you'd circle F and P. You have 2 of them that do forward and starboard, circle F and S, and 2 more that will do just forward, so you just circle forward. Now you'll also notice here under your beam weapon types there's damage modifiers. So your beam weapons will do more damage based on the range. So like for instance here, those FH3 phasers, they have a +3 damage bonus at range 1 to 10, +2 at 11 to 17, and +1 at 18 to 20. So as you see, they're more effective close up and less effective farther away. And then you'll also see another value called power range. Now phasers can have they're variable power, variable damage. Basically for each point of power you put into a phaser, it will do 1 point of damage up to the maximum. In this case, your power range is 0 to 5. So for each one of these guys, you've allocated your power to weapons, so there's a pool of power for you to use for weapons. You then take that pool of power and distribute it amongst each weapon. And 0 to 5 points for each one of them. Then we move on to missile weapon type. Now missile weapons are a little bit different. Like I say, like you've seen the movies, the torpedo flies out and hits something. And torpedoes have their own power to arm. It takes 1 point of energy to fire a photon torpedo, and it does 10 points of damage. So you go ahead and write that information down here. FP1 torpedo, firing chart, which one it uses, in this case L, power to arm, 1 point, damage 10. So you're going to use this data, you don't have to write this data down once, but you're going to be using it throughout the game. So there, boom. You've got all your weapons defined and power allocated to them. Now we're going to jump onto the second side of this form, the damage control display, and this is where we're going to specifically allocate power to your shields. So once again, we all say you have a type FSN shield, so write it down. The shield point ratio of 1 to 2, and then your maximum shield power 16. You go ahead and bring forward your shield points available. Now you look at each one of these boxes. There's 1 box per turn. We're here on turn 1, and you'll see here now that there are columns. Each column represents the shield number, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. You have a total of 6 shields. And then this track here shows you how much, it's actually dual purpose. It shows you how far you've charged the shields, and later on it will also be used to keep track of how much damage your shield took. So let's say like with shield 1, you armed it up to, or powered it up to provide 16 points of protection. So then what you would do here is like all 16 of these boxes here would be available if you take damage. So that means that shield can absorb 16 points of damage. But if you only powered it up halfway, let's say you only powered up to 8,